I said I wasn't going to do it, but here we are back in what has formerly been known as the no-buy seat. Now this might fill some of my long-term viewers with a little feeling of nostalgia or maybe even a little bit of dread because we've been here before. We've been here lots of times before. I have done no-buys throughout 2020 all the way through to 2024 with 3 of those being successful and 2 of them kind of falling apart and not being completed. So 2020 was where it all started for my channel. In fact, that was my second video, was setting out the rules for my first no-buy. So if you are going to go back and watch that, just bear in mind, I was very camera shy back then and not as I am now. But that was a really good starting point for my journey towards minimalism. So if you are new here, welcome. If you're looking to explore more of a simple and minimal journey, then a no-buy is a brilliant place to start because you can kind of tackle this from 2 points, where the first is if you're going to become more minimal, it's a really good idea to sort of start yourself out on a regular decluttering sort of mission until you get your space to where you want it to be. However, the other side of that is to then not buy loads of stuff to bring into your space. Because if you're just going to declutter stuff, but then buy stuff to bring into your space, you know, you're not really kind of helping yourself. You're just filling the space again. So if you're new on this journey, then a no-buy is a brilliant place to start if paired with also decluttering. And that's exactly where I started as a maximalist, as an admittedly shopaholic back in 2020. I'd seen loads of stuff online about people being more minimal and I was like, that is for me. So if this is the start of your journey, welcome, enjoy. It is a brilliant one. Minimalism is a fantastic thing to pursue if you're looking to sort of de-stress your space, make your life feel a little bit more simple. I am so glad I've been on this journey, and I've been on this journey for 6 full years. 2026 will be going into my 7th full year. So as I said, 2020 was fantastic. It was such a successful year, but 2021 I think was my most successful year. That was a really, really good no-buy year. 2022 was okay, and then from then I kind of started to teeter off. I think because, you know, the repetition of it, doing it every year and holding yourself to strict rules kind of can be a little bit tiresome. And I think I've needed that slight dip to come back up to the place I am now, where I haven't been so strict on my spending, and then also I haven't been as strict on what's coming into my space. And I'm noticing that now. And I said to Tom the other day, I miss minimalism. It's feeling like it's starting to go away a little bit, and there's more stuff in my space than has been when it's been at its most minimal. Don't get me wrong, it's nowhere near as bad as it once was before we started this journey, but I'm feeling it now. So I've decided this year that I do want to go on another no-buy. My no-buys built brilliant habits for myself, brilliant habits that I feel like I continued really strongly with, and that are still a part of the way I look at shopping and look at spending money. As I said, I'm nowhere near as bad as I used to be, but things, I think the screws could be tightened a little bit is what I'm saying. And having had a couple of years away from this, I'm kind of ready for that next challenge. So I am going back in with 2026 with a no-buy year. I really miss as well bringing those monthly updates where I let you know, and I'm always very transparent about it, what I spent money on each month. So I've got my rules as always, and so let's jump right in. So everyone doing a no-buy, I think, needs a rationale. You need a goal, and whether that is because you're new on your journey and you need to start somewhere, that's a goal in itself. If you're trying to pursue minimalism from the start, then that's your goal, and that's fantastic. Like I've said, I need to tighten the screws a little bit, and I'm coming at this from 2 points of view. I've already talked about one of them, which is the missing minimalism. I want to make sure there's less stuff coming into my space physically, more going out, less coming in. And so I'm definitely looking at this from an items coming in viewpoint as one of the reasons I want to do a no-buy, and the other being a savings goal. I've set myself a really big savings goal for 2026, bigger than any other savings goal I've done before, and naturally for you to be able to save more money, you need to spend less of it. So I am also coming at it from a financial perspective, as well as another area is just to become a bit more intentional. If I am going to buy something, I am always brilliant at sort of the research aspect, not going in with an impulse buy, making sure it's something I want, or sort of putting something in like an imaginary wish list. And then when I see something that meets what I'm looking for when I'm out and about, then great, I can get it, rather than impulse buying. But also when I talk about intentionality, I think I need to be more open to exploring sort of secondhand. I've done a bit of it, but it's one of those things where I've always felt like it's too much of a search and I'm much more about convenience. However, one thing I have had on my wish list for a while was a new picture for this wall, because it had a really modern sort of print on it, and I'm kind of over modern aesthetic now and have been working away from that for a couple of years. And I found this one, £5 in a charity shop. And it had been there, they mark on it how many weeks things have been in there, I think, to start reducing the prices. It had been in there for 55 weeks, over a year. Now, I get, because it's old-fashioned, it won't be everyone's cup of tea, and I'm a really old-fashioned sort of person, I mean. But for £5, and something like that, if you were to buy like a print version of that new, would be like £60 to £100, depending on where you got it from. That's a steal. And I love the fact that the frame is a little bit sort of battered and worn, like not noticeably from afar, but if you get close to it, it's got like little nicks in it. I like that. That's cute. So I think intentionality, if I'm going to buy something, be a little bit more open to, you know, not contributing to the demand of the mass market. So, rules, let's talk them through. I'm going to talk firstly about the areas where I think I will spend the most money, and then the ones that I want to be really strict about. So, my first big one will be house. And I'm not talking about buying little bits for my house in terms of like cushions and blankets and things like that. I'm past all of that. I'm talking about bigger changes that may take place in our space that we've got some plans for. And some of those are expensive, and we're talking long-term plans. They might not even happen in the next year, but we are talking about them and working towards them. Some of the sort of medium-sized plans is, I've been meaning to sort of do a bit of a reno and a tidy up of our, if you like, box room to make it more fit for purpose, because it is kind of like the room where we just dump stuff. And that needs to be more fit for purpose to, one, discourage the dumping, and two, so it's actually a space we enjoy to use. So there's a bit of work going on there, as well as also in that room is where our guinea pigs live, and we need to now work on constructing their long-term enclosure. They've been in sort of like their baby base because they were only tiny, and very soon, we've probably got a matter of about a month left before they will have technically outgrown that space and it won't meet their space requirements anymore. So we need to make sure we've built them a proper base. Now, that being said, those are two projects that we already know are going to happen, and we've already purchased or ordered most of the stuff we will need for those. So we did kind of plan ahead, knowing I was thinking about doing a no-buy, and bought a lot of that stuff. We're currently still in December, I've got a few more days, and bought that stuff ahead of time. So we are aware of that. So I don't want to be bringing in lots of like little bits for household. I don't mean that sort of thing. I mean, there are some sort of house projects going on. And we've come to this part of the conversation because we're committing to staying in this house. Unless we have some sort of drastic, miraculous financial changes, we think that we will end up staying here. We don't need to move. We don't need more space. We're in a nice area, and I know you can't guarantee that forever, but as far as we are concerned, with our savings goal in mind, we are thinking we're going to stay here, we're going to pay off the mortgage in order to be more financially free in years to come. And so that means now, if we're committing to this house, we're happy to make it what we want it to be, so make that house a home. So the biggest financial things this year will be if we make changes to the house. But as I've said, we've already started buying a few bits for that, so we're kind of ahead of the game, so we won't need to pay for those in January. On top of that is then travel, experiences, things like that. We are both happy to spend not a ridiculous amount of money, but some money on travel and giving ourselves sort of breaks away in order to relax, recharge, reset, all of that sort of stuff. And we're happy to have that as an experience. And for me, going back to this idea of I'm more concerned about spending on money on things I'm bringing into my space. Going on a mini break doesn't fall into that category. I'm not going to bring something back as a result. So we're not going to go overboard. And again, planning ahead we've got our big holiday, which won't sound big to some people, but our big holiday is a week's cruise already booked for 2026 and paid for. It's completely paid off. We've paid for it in 2025 so that we are ahead of the game. So our main holiday for next year is already paid for. However, if we do decide to go on like a weekend away here and there, we might do a couple in the whole year, then that's something we'll have to pay for that. And then things like experiences, I like to go shooting. We've come out of that a bit in the winter months, but when this warm weather comes back, we'll be wanting to do that quite regularly, amongst other things. And so those, I imagine, will be some of my higher spend areas, which then leads me into the no spend area. So like I've said, house in terms of things for the house, decorative things outside of sort of actual home reno DIY sort of stuff. And anything we do, we will DIY. We're not going to pay for tradespeople to come in and do it. It's nothing that major, with the exception of the one thing I've got in mind. But like I said, that could be not even in the next year. So things like I've said, cushions, blankets, I'm looking around the room at what I've already got, you know, decorative ornaments, even things down to plates and bowls and cups and cutlery, down to bedding sets and things like that. We don't need anything like that at the moment. And I've got future projects in mind, like a refresh of my bathroom, but that won't be major things. That'll be small things that I can do, which may then come into, you know, a different colour scheme. So my towels won't match, but it's not a priority right now. So I'm really trying to put the brakes on myself and be like, focus on one project at a time throughout the year, and then maybe we'll get there. But we don't need anything, and I think that's the important thing. There are things we would like, and then we will need to prioritize those, but there's nothing we really need in that respect. And so trying to keep a lid on myself. See what I mean about, you know, you've got these good habits from years of doing this, but you can start to slip out of them. Then I've put clothes and accessories. I don't think, again, that I need anything. I think my wardrobe it's not amazing, and I feel like a lot of us, especially people that have come from, you know, materialistic shopaholic backgrounds, who really like to express themselves through style. I'm one of those people. I love doing that. It's very hard to be ultimately happy with your wardrobe. I think there's always something where you'll be like, oh, but I'd like to try this and I'd like this, and you'll never be completely happy. I am definitely one of those people. And so again, it's a case of I need to put the brakes on. But I think in a way this also highlights that this isn't going to just be an easy thing for me because I've done it loads of times before. It's one of those things where it's like, yes, I need to put the brakes on and say, use what you've got for now and think about the bigger goals. Think about the things you're trying to achieve. Think about the fact that you don't actually want more stuff in your space, even though it would be nice to have more outfits to wear or different outfits to wear. Think about how you're trying to save money for your financial freedom in the future, and how that is a much more important thing than having, let's say, a new contribution to your wardrobe. So it's about putting the brakes on and having a bit more control. Beauty, including appointments. I'm long past my time of trying new products and getting excited to experiment with makeup and beauty and skincare and all of that stuff. I know the products that work for me, and I'm just going to stick to those and reuse them. I'm really happy and at peace in myself that I've reached the point now where I don't care about high-end or even sort of middle-end brands for makeup. It's the quality of the product that is important for me, and then also balancing that with the fact that I'm just going to wash it off at the end of the day anyway. So I think I have one expensive makeup product, and that's my Clinique powder. I have the Almost powder because that basically just is a go-to one product. It covers everything. So I don't need concealer and foundation because Almost powder just is so good. So I'm happy to spend a little bit more on that, but also again, planning ahead, I put it on my Christmas list. So I've got one that will be good for the next couple of months anyway before I need to buy a new one. And then all of my other skincare, makeup, things like shampoo, conditioner, everything is all just either like low-end beauty brands like you'd get in Boots and not the expensive ones you'd get in Boots, or even some of it like supermarket stuff. I just buy my shampoo when I do my shop in the supermarket. Like, I'm beyond worrying about those sorts of things. If I can't really see a particular problem, like with my skincare or my hair care, I'm not worried. So that I feel like is really minimalized in terms of spending. The only thing I have appointments for beauty for is haircuts, and I typically have, this has changed recently, because I used to have about one a year. I typically have about 4 a year, once every 13 weeks, just to keep the dead ends gone and that sort of fresh, blunt cut, I suppose, and style. But I don't have big styling going on in my hair. I've let all my highlights grow out now and all of that. So that should be relatively low cost. I've then got books. I've got loads of books that I need to read. I'm currently trying to read the whole Bible, so that is going to be most of my year, and I started a year-long plan in September, so that should take me until at least September, assuming I keep up with that plan consistently to get that done. I got 2 books for Christmas. That was Mere Christianity and A Case for Christ, all, you know, same sort of theme. As well as having a whole load of fiction books I'm still working my way through. I'm working my way through the Anne of Green Gables series. I say working my way through like I'm not on the 2nd book, and I've been on the 2nd book since April. But I've got all of those to read. And then I've got a few sort of standalone books that I've had for ages that I need to read. I also want to finish the Song of Ice and Fire series. So I've got loads of books. And I get really tempted to buy new books when I get intrigued about something and then forget that I'm a really slow reader and that I have loads of books I already need to read and have on the go. So no books needed. Let's finish what we've got first before we delve into other things. Stationery, the same. I've got loads of stationery, but I'm one of these people that likes stationery. Like recently in December, I bought like cute pens for Bible study and little Bible tabs and things like that. And if it encourages you down the studying and the journaling, you know, I think there's value in it. But now I don't need any more, so we're going to stop there. Similarly with craft stuff, I'm pretty good now in that I don't explore new avenues of crafting because I know I haven't got time for it. And you know, I've been there before. I've been the person that's bought loads of clay and then not really done anything with it beyond the first day. I've been the person that's bought graphic markers thinking I'm going to do like graphic noveling, didn't do it. The only thing I'm okay at is painting, and I have had a real urge lately to start painting again, but balance that with it has been so long since I did any painting. I imagine a lot of my brushes are dried up, even some of the paints might be, you know, separated and dried up. So I'll have to do sort of an inventory of what we've got there, but I'm not going to go out and buy any new painting things until the day I actually want to use them, and knowing that I've got time set aside to actually start that day. Otherwise I'll just order stuff and it will sit and wait until I find time, which is very unlikely to happen, and so it doesn't then get used. So I don't want to jump in and buy new stuff for painting until the time I'm coming to use it. But all other crafts should be zero. Other hobbies, the only other hobbies I really have are shooting and riding. I haven't been riding for months because the riding school we were going to changed their whole booking and payment thing, and we weren't too happy with the sort of value of the experience you get to their increase in prices, so we stopped using them. But we've not found another school that we like. I mean, we didn't really love the one we were going to, it was convenient to get to in the area. So my mum and I are still looking for a new school, but should we find one, hopefully I'll get back into having regular lessons for that. And Tom and I like to go clay pigeon shooting as well. Not real shooting. A lot of people get a bit confused, and I've had a lot of call outs in the comments about that. We don't shoot anything alive, if that sort of helps. We go clay pigeon shooting, which I don't think I have one in my cabinet anymore. No, I don't. They're just clay discs, and you shoot them and they smash in the air, and you do it at a clay shooting ground. It's specifically designed for that. So we like to do that, and obviously you have to pay for cartridges and clays to do that. Those are the only other hobbies, and for Tom, he's got his guitar stuff, so you know, he'll have to restring those throughout the year and things like that. I've already talked about experiences. I guess you could class eating out as part of that. We don't eat out a lot anyway. It will be sort of an occasional treat. It's one of those things where if you do it, it's nice to do it, and it could be a good way to sort of reduce a bit of your stress because you've not got as busy an evening, you've not got to cook dinner or anything or clear up. And it doesn't bring something into your space. So again, it's one of those things where I'm not too concerned because I'm not bringing something in, as long as it doesn't become a regular habit. So as long as we're not going out to eat regularly. But I don't see it being a problem because we don't do that anyway. We like to be quite in control of what we eat for our health, and we meal plan for that. And so usually it'll be a case of we plan to go out to eat in advance as a treat, rather than we'll go, oh, I can't be bothered tonight, and we'll go out, because we'll have already bought the groceries in and planned our meals. And then the only other thing I've put on my list is gifts. And I think I'm quite sensible. I've got a good balance of a budget, a sensible budget, and being adequately generous, if you like, in terms of gifting. I keep my list for gifting, whether it's birthdays throughout the year or Christmas or whatever it is, relatively short. For me, a gift should go to someone who I care a lot about, and I want that gift to bring them joy. It's important for me to have them experience the joy of that gift. And so people say it's not very thoughtful, but I typically ask people what they want when it's their birthday coming up or Christmas, and I have a budget in mind, and I typically stick to that budget as well as getting something they want. So with gifting, I'm just sort of sticking to the usual budget I have, and because I'm sensible with that, I think I'll be okay. You know, I don't go out of my way to buy, like, you know, like the little bits that people feel like you need to make a present look more. I don't worry about that anymore. I ask people what they want, and that way when they open their present, I know it's something they want and they'll be excited for it, and then you don't have that worry of needing all those extra little bits, because if you buy all those extra little bits that might not be as meaningful or might not be the things that they necessarily want, they're not going to be as exciting anyway compared to the present that you've got them that is something they actually want. So I'm just confident now in that I've bought you something you actually want and you'll be happy with it, and I don't need to do all the sort of little bits around it. And that saves so much money and time and worry, to be perfectly honest. So in terms of gifts, that's it. One thing I didn't put on my list, but I've just remembered, is the garden. I suppose you could tie it in with household. I put quite a bit of effort into the garden last spring and summer. I'm hoping now I can just maintain that there won't be lots of trips down the garden centre and spending a lot of money there. So that should also be quite minimal. And then I suppose the only other thing is sort of digital purchases, like movies and stuff. Again, it's not a big spending area for us anyway, because we don't have a lot of time to do it, but I would like to keep that quite minimal. So I'm going to say buying, you know, a couple of movies throughout the year isn't the worst thing in the world, but again, not something that we should be getting regularly into. So that's pretty much it. The exciting part is not typically the rules. The exciting part is the updates each month and whether or not I manage to stick to the rules each month. So I will try to do a monthly update where I break down every single thing that I've bought, and I will be really transparent about that. So I'll look forward to filming those. And so here's to a limited spending 2026. If you're doing a no buy or a low buy of your own this year, let me know down below. It's always great to keep track with each other. If you're not subscribed and you want someone along for the journey with you, then feel free to subscribe below and like the video if you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Here's to a fabulous 2026. God bless. Take care.